Isaac Original, Armored Skeptic here, sending you a cease and desist. You owe Armored Media $50 for every time you said shoe on head. However, you may have skirted around the legality of the trademark by spelling it wrong. Let's just agree to settle this by saying, James Bond, we have to stop Boris from using the golden eye in your next video. And then we'll call this even. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. James Bond, we have to stop Boris. James Bond, we have to stop Boris. James Bond, we have to stop Boris from using moose and squirrel. That doesn't sound right. This is hard. I cannot just imitate some random Slavic accent. I mean, like, they roll their R and stuff. And they all the time sound like they're drunkards. Boris, stop fucking Natasha. We still have to invade Canada. You know what? You give me Logic Stop Peeking while Isaac Original has a shower with a Canadian accent, and I will give you your James Bond Stop Boris.
God bless.
You owe me a new door.
There's another argument that atheists use.
Argument? What argument? You just took half my door with you.
About God.
Who cares about God? I want my door back.
They say things like,
Okay, if I debunk your nonsense, you replace my door. How about that?
cool.
Alright, bring it on.
If God was so powerful, and he knew that Satan was going to manipulate Eve into sinning, why didn't he just zap Satan in the first place?
Not giving him the key would have been enough, but God is pretty brutal, so yeah, why didn't he zap him out of existence?
Here's the background from a Bible standpoint, from a biblical point of view. John says in Revelation 12, I think.
The same Revelations 12 where the woman puts the sun on like a dress and uses the moon like a surfboard?
He says there was a war in heaven. Now, if you say there was a war in Afghanistan, cool.
No, not cool. It's a war. People die.
But there was a war in heaven.
I know it's a bit off topic, but it really makes me nervous that while you're speeding with oncoming traffic, you're like glancing at the camera and waving at the camera. It's really not cool, bro.
And this war, the word that John used for the word war, the Greek word that John used is polemos.
In the Greek mythology, Polemos was a divine incarnation of war.
In our language today, in the English language, I think we have this thing called polymetics or something.
Polemics?
Politics.
Politics comes from politicos and means related to citizens.
It pretty much means an argument. There was an argument in heaven, a war with words.
So I guessed right. You were talking about polemics. Okay, so God and Satan had an argument. What then?
Now we know that the word Satan, that's not really Satan's name. That's his title. That's what they call him. They call him the adversary, Satan.
Okay, so Satan, the adversary, had an argument with God. What then?
It means the adversary or the accuser.
Okay, I know that Satan guy seems kind of sexy to you and hot and everything, but I really want only to hear your argument. Could you please keep your hot wet dreams for yourself?
So if there was a war in heaven, it was a war with words, and Satan being the accuser, who was he accusing?
His lawyer? Nah, must have been Logic. It's always Logic's fault.
If you go to Genesis, I think it was Genesis 3, there was 3 points that, there was 3 things that Satan used to his advantage when he was arguing about God with Eve.
Well, she did scream, "Oh God!" a lot, but I don't really think arguing is the right metaphor for it.
He said, oh, did God really say that you're going to die? Did God really say not to eat that fruit, that you're going to die? You're not really gonna die.
Dude, you're constantly looking at the camera instead of the street.
You're not really gonna die.
For all I know, you might be that already.
right? That's what he said. You're not really gonna die. So number one, he's accusing God of being a liar.
Stupid Satan! Never attribute to malice that which can be explained by stupidity.
God is just telling you that because he wants the tree to himself. Because if you eat of that tree, you will become like God.
The claim in Genesis 3, verses 4 to 5, says if we get the knowledge of good and evil, but she won't die of the fruit, which is pretty much what happened. God made her mortal in the aftermath, but Satan didn't know that. So I would argue that his complaints about the fruit were accurate and legit.
He's accusing God of being a liar, that's number one, and he's accusing God of keeping this
Put your hands back on that wheel!
this tree all to himself.
Yes, you monster fucking push. You can just fucking right. Yes, fuck you.
Are you completely insane? You speed through a residential area with the hands off the wheel and staring at the camera. I really hope you don't drive like this when you have a baby in that baby car seat in the back of that fucking car of yours.
Because if you eat of this tree, quote, quote, he says, that you will become like God.
Just in case.
Which is true, you'll become like God, knowing good and evil, but it's also a sin.
Why is knowing good from evil a sin? Isn't it better if you know that stabbing old grannies and stealing their purse is something evil?
He used that as an argument to say God is manipulative, he's a liar, and he's keeping things away from us or from Eve, otherwise would be in our best interest or in Eve's best interest to eat, right? So that's the accusation. That's Satan's accusation.
So, Satan didn't lie about the fruit. Lying is a sin, therefore not lying is good. Eating from the tree is a sin, and therefore bad. But saying what the fruit does is not the same as eating it, and therefore it's not a sin, and therefore it's not evil. Except it would get Eve to unavoidably sin, which is evil. Unless Eve knows that it's evil and doesn't eat from the tree. But Eve has no idea what evil is in the first place, so she cannot avoid the evil. But if Eve would know what is evil, that would be a sin. So Eve cannot not sin. And Satan cannot not sin either. Because he would either have to lie or make her eat from the tree. When people say that cults are fucked up, that's what I mean.
Now, let's think of it this way. Let's think of it this way. In the book of Revelation, it says that Satan, or the dragon, because the dragon is Satan, drew a third of the stars.
You do realize that Revelation is supposed to be in the future, right? It's supposed to tell us how the world ends, not how it began.
Now, a star in the Bible is a symbol for angels. That's in Revelation 1. So he drew a third of the angels with his tail, right? So he accused God, and his accusation was so good, his argument was so good, that a third of the angels, of God's angels, followed him to his fall.
So Satan is dragging a third of the angels with him in the future, and therefore God didn't stop him from talking to Eve in the past. That logic is priceless.
Here's the thing: why didn't God zap Satan out of existence right then and there when he made this accusation? When he was probably, and this is just my opinion, right? He was probably going around heaven saying, "Oh, God is not really this. God is not really this type of God."
Because God wanted to kick out a third of the angels in the future and needed an excuse for it.
Also in Ezekiel, I think it was Ezekiel 28 or 14 or Isaiah 14, whatever, one of the two, he says, or I think it was Isaiah or Ezekiel that says, Satan says, "I will ascend from the heights of the clouds," right? I will be like the Most High, right? So he's boasting.
Okay, you're obsessed with Satan. I got it. Now, please make your point.
He's you can kind of imagine him going around heaven saying, "Oh, God doesn't know what he's doing. If I was in charge, I would, the world or the universe would be so much better, so on and so forth, right? And then he accuses God of being a liar, like he did with Eve. He accuses God of being a liar and being manipulative and trying to keep something from us, which is in our best interest to take or to eat or whatever, or to take in.
He was pretty right about that. I mean, earthquakes, volcanoes, putting trees with fruit in front of people and telling them not to eat it. God pretty much does not know what he's doing.
If God would have just zapped them out of existence, right? And he's been going around telling people that God is not really who he is. God is this tyrant, right? And God would have zapped him out of existence. What do you think the rest of the angels would have thought? Oh, so Satan or Lucifer makes all these accusations about God, and then the next day Satan is gone. Lucifer might have been onto something, right? He might have been onto something, right? Lucifer might have been right.
Okay, just to recap. God didn't zap Satan out of existence because he didn't want angels to think that Satan is right. He instead waits to remove Lucifer a whole cycle of humanity later so that Lucifer can convince a third of the angels anyway. I can't see any flaw in that logic at all.
So then the angels would have served God out of fear instead of love. And the best way to serve God is, I mean, yeah, sure, there's verses in the Bible that says fear God, but that's not really be afraid of God. That means to revere God. But you don't serve God out of fear. You don't serve God because you're terrified of him. You serve God because you love him, because he gives you life.
Due to that logic, every child would be its parents' servant just for being born, and its grandparents because they are the parents' parents. No, you don't owe anyone anything for being alive.
He's the source of life, and he gave us the gift of life. That's why we serve him. We serve him out of love and out of respect.
Respect is earned, not demanded. And if your imaginary friend would be respect worthy, he would not need to have slaves.
If he would have zapped Satan out of existence from that moment, and the angels would have saw this, what do you think the angels would have thought?
The same thing they thought a few chapters further. Hopefully he doesn't drown us with the rest of humanity.
Right? The angels would have been like, oh, Satan was right. God is a tyrant. It was either that, or God could have just let it play out.
Or he could have challenged the allegations verbally.
Think about it. Think about the president today, right? President Obama. If the vice president makes all kinds of accusations about President Obama, tells America, hey, President Obama is not really a good guy, so on and so forth. He's really a tyrant, which he probably is, I don't know.
Did you just call Obama a tyrant?
But then a day later, the vice president just suddenly disappears. What do you think people would say?
Let's check if our taxman is still here.
Who's the first person that people would look at and say, yeah, he's the one that did that?
No, they wouldn't. When Obama got challenged on his birth certificate, he didn't kill his accusers either. It's also a stupid example, because due to your logic, you would be dead by tomorrow. After all, you called Obama a tyrant. Unless your driving star kills you first, that is.
I mean, sometimes I'm talking about atheist people, sometimes you just gotta read the Bible, really read the Bible, and really try to understand it.
In other words, really try to understand your personal bias into it.
Don't just say, oh, well, don't just take, a couple verses and say, oh, God is a tyrant because, he didn't zap, or God is, stupid or whatever because he didn't zap Satan out of existence.
Yeah, that is stupid, especially because that was not their claim. Their claim was,
if God was so powerful and he knew that Satan was going to manipulate Eve into sinning, why didn't he just zap Satan in the first place. It's not just about God. It's not just about Satan. It's the whole universe that's at stake.
The universe doesn't care if someone calls someone else names. It's also really not about God or Satan. Your whole video is just an excuse for you to hold on to your childhood indoctrination. Nothing else.
Think about it. Think about it. That's what I want to tell you guys today. This is just what I want to share. That's been on my mind the whole day, actually. So share, comment, whatever. God bless.
Have a safe trip.
Hi everyone, sorry for my prolonged absence, but things are getting back in gear, so I will definitely make more videos. A big thank you to Purple Dan for his stunt with the car. If you are not subscribed to him, you should definitely fix that. He debunks Kent with a super fancy South African accent. The link is on the screen and in the description below. In the very unlikely case that you are not subscribed to Schwanhat, you should fix that too. She may not have a fancy foreign accent, but she always looks hot as hell when debunking crazy people. And shit, I said Schwanhat again. Ugh. Okay, Skepti, here you go. James Bond, we have to stop Boris from using the golden eye. And may the armor be with you.
James Bond, we have to stop.
Shut up.
Maybe I shouldn't say that.